That's a good point. I don't think I've ever been to a strip club. And had I been, I'm pretty sure they all would have been wearing high heels.
Had I been.
Had I ever been to one, I would assume that they wear shoes.
Big, cumbersome heels. Quick.
Boots. They wear boots.
Yeah.
Crocs.
Yeah. That scene is still amazing. Welcome in, everybody, to another horror movie review. I am your host, Rob Coakley. Before I introduce my co-host, we usually tell you that we're going to give you spoilers, but before we get into it, if you haven't seen this movie, you don't know about this movie, watch this movie first, is what I want to say before you watch this review, because I think it's heavily important. But without further ado, my co-host, Dave Wilkins.
Yes, here I am.
And Jesse Wilkins.
From Dusk Till Dawn is the movie that we're talking about.
And we are reviewing From Dusk Till Dawn. So make sure you watch that first. From this point forward, there could be spoilers. So just be expecting that. I'm excited to review this movie. I've been wanting to do this movie for a few years because I was pretty sure Jesse hadn't seen it. And I kept biting my tongue and I wanted him to watch this. So I'm excited to get his take on it. But before we do, Dave, do you have a synopsis for us of this particular movie?
I do. From Dusk Till Dawn, 1996, directed by Robert Rodriguez. On the run from a bank robbery that left several police officers dead, Seth Gecko and his paranoid loose cannon brother Richard hightail it to the Mexican border, kidnapping preacher Jacob Fuller and his kids. The criminals sneak across the border in the family's RV and hole up in a topless bar. Unfortunately, the bar also happens to be the home base for something that nobody could have seen coming. And I actually just altered that synopsis because the synopsis spoils the big reveal of the movie, which is like, don't do that.
Yes.
Because this movie is unique. This is one of my favorites. I've been looking forward to reviewing this for a long time because I absolutely love this movie. I saw it back in 96 when it first came out. I actually saw this movie in Germany, and it was, when I watched it, it was in German, subtitled in English. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it was weird. So
what a wild way to watch this movie.
I know. It was very strange. But yeah, it had the dub overs. So yeah, the movie was dubbed over because the people in Germany I was watching it were German, and so they had the German dub over and with the English subtitles. I'm like, what if we just watched the English version with the German subtitles? And they were like, 9.
It is wild. There's Germans in Germany.
That's crazy. I didn't see it coming.
That is crazy.
Also, one of the best lines from the movie.
Oh, I love it.
What's in Mexico? Mexicans.
It's a funny movie. I thought this was an interesting casting. I'll talk about the cast first because it's kind of an all-star cast. You got George Clooney kind of playing the lead. You got Quentin Tarantino, who didn't direct it. He acted in it, which is interesting. You don't usually see him in movies that he's not directing, specifically as an actor. And I thought that was interesting. He did a good job, though. You had Salma Hayek made a guest appearance. You had Danny Trejo. You had Tom Savini. You had Harvey Keitel. You had Juliette Lewis. And you had Marin playing at least 3 different characters in this movie, which was really a lot of fun.
Well, real quick, Quentin Tarantino wrote the movie.
Oh, did he write it? Okay.
Yeah, so that's why he was in it.
Right. That's fair enough. I figured he had something to do with it. I assumed he was a producer at least. But he works with Robert Rodriguez a lot.
Yeah.
I loved the cast. I thought George Clooney did a great job, but was just a super weird casting. It seems like a weird role for him. You don't really see him in like kind of a gangster role like that.
Oh, I loved it. I thought he was awesome in this role. I wish he did. I thought you got normal George Clooney, but
let me just clarify. That wasn't a knock. I wasn't saying it was a bad casting. I said it was an unusual casting, not something not a role I would have expected to see George Clooney in, but he did crush it and I liked it.
I mean, I thought he was amazing. I thought you got like Ocean's 11 George Clooney, but with like this criminal, like hard criminal edge to him.
He's a killer, right?
Yeah. and I thought it was great. I loved the entire casting in this movie. I thought top to bottom, everyone nailed their roles. Tom Savini as Sex Machine is even incredible. Like there's just dude, there is so much in this movie. Like it starts off as like you said, it starts off as basically
Devil's Rejects. And
Devil's
then turns,
Rejects.
Yeah, and then turns into what it turns into.
But then it turns into so many things, right? It's like it's horror, it's cartoony, it's campy, it's funny, it's gory. It just has all these different layers to it, but they're all perfectly in balance.
It's cohesive, which you typically don't get, and you get like shitty directors try and do stuff like this, and they just throw a whole bunch of stuff in there, and it just feels like too much is going on, and it's like, wait, am I watching one movie or two movies? And I think there's a reason that this movie works. Well, you know, I'll remind me to make this point after we give the reveal as to.
Yeah. Jesse, do you have initial thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to say on that, I want to hear Jesse's take on this.
Yeah, so initially I had to double check, make sure I was watching the right movie. The wife came in. Apparently she had seen it before. And she's like, oh, what are you watching? I'm like, I'm watching From Dusk Till Dawn. I was like, is this a horror movie? And she's like, oh, yeah, it ends up being super stupid. I was like, all right, it's going to be great because she said it's stupid. And yeah, I did not expect this movie to turn the way that it turned. But I thought George Clooney was perfect in this role up until the change happened, right? So and then on sorry,
you can give the big reveal.
He was still good. Okay, big reveal. The Mexican titty bar ends up being a bunch of vampires.
Yeah, a vampire nest,
like snake face vampires.
It's like 2/3 of the way through the movie too. Like you get
yeah,
an hour and 2 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
When where do I start? When it happened, I'm like, what the fuck? You know, because I really liked the movie.
Yeah.
The way it was going. And I was actually disappointed because, all right, so the part of me that was really enjoying the movie was disappointed because I wanted to see where the story went.
Yeah.
And then the part of me that enjoys really dumb shit really enjoyed where the movie went because I was like, well, this is fucking sweet. I'm in, you know?
Right.
But that other part of me was like, so those two parts of me were mad at each other. They were upset about being okay with this. And I would like to see two versions of this movie. Now, I know there's been other ones that have been made. I would like to see a movie where that doesn't happen. And I would like to see what, you know, like where the normal movie goes. And then I would like, I don't know what I want.
Are you going to give the third version of the two options that you presented?
I'm once again fighting with my inner self.
There's two vampires within Jesse.
There are. Yes. Yeah. They're battling it out. But it was awesome. It was awesome. Yeah. But it really did take a turn from pretty serious and dark. You're dealing with, you know, George Clooney, who's more so playing an ocean, like a real gangster version of an Ocean's 11 character, where he still is, and he calls himself in it. He's like, I am a professional thief.
Yeah.
And he just has his serial killer brother with him, who is making every situation way worse.
Way worse.
I could feel the stress at the Mexican border when Quentin Tarantino's character wouldn't shut the hell up. And a lot of tension early on in that movie. And then no mas.
No mas.
And then it just really changed. So it was such a twist that I wasn't expecting. And I had seen, so like, obviously Salma Hayek's role in this movie is one that, you know, the pictures are always floating around on the internet. Like, oh, this is the best that any woman has ever looked in any movie. And I won't argue that, but
true.
Nor should you.
I never see the version of her with an iguana face.
No,
I never see that picture.
Yeah, no one's ever said like this is the best a woman's ever looked in a movie and just shows her with her face split open.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that.
So this movie shouldn't have worked because every rule about storytelling this movie breaks. Right? This should count as a rug pull of a movie, and that's why movies do poorly that end up trying to do the big twist, right? And the twist ends up just being a lie. Like they're just lying to their audience where you think you're getting one movie and then last minute they're like, surprise, and they pull the rug out from under you and you're like, well, actually this fucking sucks. I kind of felt that way about what was the Nicolas Cage one that we watched recently? Well, actually, not that recently.
I know which one you're talking about. I can't remember the name of it though.
I don't know if you do know which one I'm talking about. Long Legs.
Oh,
Long
okay.
Legs,
Long
I
Legs.
felt like was a rug pull. You think you're gonna the whole movie, like you think it's gonna be one thing, and then last minute they're like, I don't want to spoil this movie, but the main bad guy that you thought was gonna be the main bad guy was like, oops, yeah, hey, it doesn't matter. He's not a part of it. Like it's just like, oh, fuck you, this sucks. But this one was like it was. I actually kind of understand where Jesse was coming from when he was like immediately disappointed, but then the movie fixed itself and just was really well written towards the end and kind of tied everything together at the end. You had a really good character arc with George Clooney. You had a really interesting character arc with Juliette Lewis's character there. And it all worked out in the end. And just the
Harvey
ending.
Keitel.
Harvey Keitel, fantastic character arc. Yeah, just really, really well incorporated story. So that's why it did work when I think it probably shouldn't have worked.
Yeah, I like the twist, and I think the abruptness on to your point, yeah, sometimes it doesn't work, but I think the reason this one works so well is there's no lead up to it at all. You don't even get hints. I've watched this movie so many times, and they don't even like allude to the fact that this might happen, right? Like for the most part, and
yeah,
it's so abrupt. But once it happens, it happened, and now you're dealing with it. It doesn't like happen and then it goes away and you're left there to collect your thoughts about it. It happens and all hell breaks loose like in the snap of a finger. It's that character changes. Everyone becomes a vampire. I love how they all look different too. There's not just like a standard vampire. There's like, it's like, what does a vampire look like? They asked 30 people and then they used all 30 of those concepts of what a vampire looks like. There's ones that look like regular people with just the fangs. There's dog face monster ones. There's all these crazy different vampires. There's, the Salma Hayek, which was like the snake head as she was dancing with the snake as well. I love it. The band change is hilarious in this movie.
The band playing instruments made out of human corpses was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was awesome. It just is such an abrupt and fun twist, and I love it. And to me, both halves of the movie work to make this such a phenomenal movie. The tension
in the first half versus the tension in the second half. I don't know if there wasn't really much tension in the second half, but like the tension in the first half is what really it just grips you from the beginning because Quentin Tarantino's character is such a well-written, disturbing character, and his relationship with his brother is pretty fascinating as well, where they're obviously both criminals, but it almost feels like George Clooney's character is like what's grounding Quentin Tarantino's character and kind of keeping him from going off the rails. And they did a really good job incorporating Tarantino's character, his mental problem, right? Where he can't tell what's reality and what he's hallucinating. Right. And they kind of worked that in so you almost couldn't tell. A couple of times you knew, you're like, she didn't say that. And then like a couple other times you're like, oh wait, where they're at in the beginning scene there where they're in the convenience store. And, I didn't catch it the first time I watched it, probably because it was in German. But the second and third time I watched it, I was like, oh, I wonder if the guy actually really did mouth something or if Tarantino just imagined it and then blew the guy's head off. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I rewound it this time.
Yeah,
I was like, did he? So I rewound the scene, and to your point, he didn't. The subtle way that they did that is incredible.
It's genius.
They didn't beat you over the head with it. To your point, the Juliette Lewis scene is the most like alarming, like that that didn't happen scene, and it's like built up to that.
It was disturbing, but it was fucking funny too. Like,
yeah, yeah.
When they're in the motorhome later, and he's like, "What you asked earlier?" She's like, "What?" He's
Yeah.
like, George Clooney's like, "Shut up."
Yeah.
It was funny.
I think that hitting on that George Clooney point is great because he was what was grounding his brother, and I think he's seeing that his control of that has been slipping away and clearly slipping away more. And he even like in the hotel room, he's like, what am I doing wrong? What did I do wrong? Why are you like this? Basically. And like, it's such a good story. And just to get through this is jarring. And you see it culminate with those two characters because obviously Quentin Tarantino's character changes into a vampire.
Right.
And I like that it wasn't drawn out for him to come around, that he has to take care of him, where a lot of movies would make that a 5-10 minute scene for them, or like a very drawn out long scene. But he's like, don't touch my brother. And then 10 seconds later, he's like, hold him. And it just does it. Just does the deed to get rid of him. I
actually
really
think this is actually my only negative for the movie, and it's kind of a fucking wild take, so I don't know if I'll take points off for it, but I think they got this wrong, and I know why they didn't do it this way, and who am I to question Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino and their genius, but George Clooney should have got bit, and Tarantino should have been the one to make it to the end of the movie, because that would have created a whole other weird character arc, where if Tarantino kind of assumes that role where he steps in and they make it all out together, you have that weird ass scene with him at the end with Juliette Lewis. What does she say to him? I think that would have a more horror feel, where this had more of like an action movie sort of hero protagonist sort of archetype thing.
My pushback on that would be that Tarantino's character wouldn't have the wherewithal to work amongst a group to get out of that situation with people.
It could have been survival instinct. It could have been, just basic human survival instincts. It could have been. I think it could have worked, but I think it would have made a more complex storyline, and I think it would have been it would have felt more like a horror movie than an action movie, because it kind of turned into like the action.
I get the point. I don't think I like it though. I think I like the way they did it for this particular. I understand where you're coming from.
Switch the actors. You could have had George Clooney play Richard, and you could have had Tarantino play, what's his name, Seth.
No, Tarantino would never allow it. He had to be the one to put Salma Hayek's
in his mouth.
It's
the only reason he acted in this.
Yeah, for sure. 100% the reason why he wrote that role and allowed himself to be cast in that particular point. I don't hate the idea.
This is not coming from a man of experience whatsoever, but I don't think that many topless dancers are coming out barefoot. A little bit of a plot hole there, Tarantino.
That's a good point. I don't think I've ever been to a strip club, and had I been, I'm pretty sure they all would have been wearing high heels.
Had I ever been to one, I would assume that they wear shoes.
Big cumbersome heels. Quick.
Boots. They wear boots.
Yeah.
Crocs.
Yeah, that scene is still amazing. 11-year-old Rob really liked that scene. 40-year-old Rob still likes that scene. It
holds up.
It holds up for sure.
And she looks exactly the same nowadays, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, which is incredible.
Yeah,
she might be a vampire.
Oh, that's a good point.
we might have debunked it. She might actually be a vampire.
So it actually took me a little while to realize that they were vampires, because like the lizard things threw me off. Like, the hell am I looking at here? It wasn't until they started like driving stakes through the heart and they started bursting into flames, I was like, oh, vampires. Okay. But I think they actually came to the conclusion before I did. They're like, they're dealing with vampires. I'm like, are we? I don't know. This is crazy.
Crosses, silver, stakes.
I don't even know if I think it was just because one of them staked one, just out of survival instinct, and that's what they figured out.
They were biting necks. Biting neck that's kind of like the major distinction there, right? With fangs.
Yeah. So they do pick it up pretty quick. I want to talk about the two side characters that are fighting alongside them in the bar, which was
fantastic.
I got to push back on the neck biting. Lions bite necks.
I didn't think anyone.
Did they look like fucking lions, Jesse?
Maybe some of them did. Lions have teeth.
Yeah, maybe. Good point.
Lions have eyes.
Lions do have eyes.
Jesus Christ.
You ever looked at a fucking lion before? Come
on. So
are lions vampires? We can move on.
So Tom Savini as Sex Machine is incredible. And God, I forget who the other guy
Fred
is.
Williamson.
Fred Williamson is also incredible. Like,
phenomenal.
Like, if other characters weren't so great, because there's so many good characters, these guys would have been standouts to me in this movie and would have been my favorite characters. I still love them a lot in this movie, but the Sex Machine gun is one of the greatest inventions I've ever seen
Oh,
in the
yes.
movie.
It's so funny.
It is the funniest thing of all time, and I'm so glad it actually got used at one point in the movie. I wish it got used more, to be honest. I
Mm.
wish they overdid it because I just thought it was hysterical, and I wanted more of it.
Do you know
And
if Wilmer Valderrama was in this?
where was he in this? Was he a
He's not. He's listed in the. Oh, maybe they're doing the thing where they talk about people in the sequels.
oh, that might be what it was. I will say that I never watched a sequel to this movie.
Me neither.
I have no desire because this is one of those movies that the movie is about a lot of things, but the key to this movie is not knowing what happens in the second half.
Mm.
And what am I getting him from Dusk Till Dawn to?
Yeah.
Like, I know there's going to be vampires, and I love vampire movies. Don't get me wrong, but I just can't imagine they're doing anything that enhances the first movie by any means.
Yeah.
So, but back to, was it Fred Williamson?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, another phenomenal character. And I think he's actually the scariest vampire
Yeah.
of them all when he turns.
Yep.
That face that he has is terrifying. He looks menacing.
Mm-hmm.
He is incredible. And I love his Vietnam scene with him and Tom Savini, where Tom Savini's like learning that he's turning into a vampire. And it keeps cutting back to Fred Williamson reenacting every person he stabbed in Vietnam, just not stopping, and everyone just standing there watching this story for some reason. And you get the little cartoon hands from Tom Savini afterwards that grab him.
Yeah. That's
such an incredible scene. It's like, what is this movie? Why are they doing all these things? And it all works for me. I love all of it. So
yeah, it was really fun. Those are two fun castings.
So I think another part of this movie that gets, we get the death of Quentin Tarantino. We get the death of the side characters. They end up huddled in this room. The father, Harvey Keitel, ends up bit, right? You get that tension where, is he going to turn? They're looking through. They're trying to find weapons. We get one of the coolest vampire killing weapons of all time with George Clooney's, which is phenomenal. But you get
not effective, right? It looked cool, but like, what? I don't think I'd want that. It's
not in the situation they're in, for sure. Not when there's a lot of them around you.
Yeah, but it's just like, it's like an iconic kind of look from that movie, for sure. I thought the dilemma that we were presented with at the end, with Harvey Keitel being bit and him trying to convince his kids, like, you gotta kill me, and they agree, and it's just the way it works out, where his son ends up being the one, and he balks and hesitates for a split second, and it costs him. So it was, and then the sister ended up having to finish him off. So it was very, very dark.
Yeah,
and presented a real dilemma that I thought worked very well with the story, because what would have ruined this movie is too much plot armor for the characters. Like, if everyone's just fine, there's no real, they just fight call them zombies, fight the vampires and get out of there safe. It's kind of like, that was just a fun action movie.
Yeah, I think that was 100% the right call with that, because Harvey Keitel gets his redemption, like his redemption arc in this movie still, and dying is part of that redemption arc, I think. So I think that's absolutely what needed to be done. And they set up the son, hesitating perfectly with his response to him in the hallway. He hesitates on that response, and then he hesitates in real life, and that gets him taken out. So I think it's great. And Juliette Lewis, she does not hesitate in the hallway, right? She says it with conviction, and then she shows it with conviction with her brother. So I think that was great foreshadowing in that part of the movie. If we're looking for any tension at all in the second half, other than just action, it's that. And I think that's executed perfectly.
But they also showed the son's steadfast loyalty to the father and the family throughout the movie, right? So I won't leave my dad's side, blah, blah, blah. We got to tell the cop that these guys are in the bathroom. We got to get out of this. So he was kind of definitely that more of a cautious character, which I think ended up costing him.
Yeah, unfortunately. But and there's some bad choreography a little bit in some of the fight scenes where you're like, they're sort of just standing looking around with vampires behind them, and the vampires have clear pathways to take them out. It doesn't take me out of the movie. Just something I noticed.
Takes you a little bit towards the end there, where you know that where they just charged into a room full of vampires and they're like fighting one-on-one. You know, it's kind of like they're outnumbered like 70-1. Like, what are we doing? So a little bit of that, and you know, some of the effects maybe didn't stand the test of time, but very fun movie.
I think
they definitely didn't, but it was fun. Like at that point, I'm like, okay, this is what we got. It started with the first, you know, when Salma Hayek transformed into a lizard lady or whatever. I was like, all right, this is what we got. This is everything else is fine. Whatever happens here going forward is fine. And that's kind of it was all right. That's okay. But no, it was not a scary. There was no scary vampires. It wasn't a scary movie at that point. It was an action movie.
Right, action movie. I think my one nitpick of this movie would have been some less amount of vampires, but more menacing. Because I think that fixes a lot of the issues.
Yeah, too much standing around by a lot of the vampires.
Yeah, I think if you make them just a few less of them, make them a little tougher to kill, it makes the movie a lot more effective, in my opinion.
I loved the resolution to them getting out of the building at the end, where Juliette Lewis was like, do I save 2 bullets for us? And he's like, nope, you're going to save those 2 bullets for the last zombies. And then they realized the sunlight started poking into the holes, and they were like, oh, shoot the walls. Yeah. So they blast more holes in the walls, and the sunlight starts shooting rays at the vampires. And I thought that was brilliant. I thought it was great. No, literally brilliant.
Yes, literally brilliant. And that sort of brings us to the end, which is, I really like the end because, you know, he gets out of there. The guys show up, Cheech, for his third role of the movie, ends up being his contact. And they go outside. He gets his car, and Juliette Lewis is like, "You need some company." And 99 out of 100 movies would either have her get in the car and drive away with him, or while he was driving down the road after leaving her, he would do a U-turn and pick her up and drive away. And that is not what this movie does. He sort of stands true to his character, and he's like, you know,
I might be a bastard, but I'm not a fucking bastard.
Yeah, which is great. Yeah. And I also think it's sort of him respecting the deal he made with her father as well, because he was like, I told this man that I was going to let them go after I met my contact in the morning, and I think he was truthful about that. I don't think that his character was lying about that at all. So I think he was sort of honoring his debt to Harvey Keitel in that moment, and I do really like that a lot. And then you get the great panning shot that they're actually at like an Aztec temple, and you see all the old cars and stuff that have crashed there and been thrown behind the temple, and I love that reveal as well.
Me too.
I think that was pretty cool. So overall, really like this movie. I thought there were some great quotable lines where, you know, the ones you guys already brought up, but the other one where Juliette Lewis asked George Clooney if he's okay. He's like, yeah, I'm just fine. The world's my oyster. Except for the fact that my brother just turned into a fucking vampire and I had to stake him in the heart, basically. Like, other than that, everything is amazing.
Yeah, he had a lot of really good one-liners in this movie. I enjoyed his character a lot.
Yeah, very good. Do we have any closing thoughts on the movie, gentlemen, before we get into scores?
So rewatchable.
Oh, definitely.
Even after the reveal's ruined, it's just not ruined, but like exposed. You know, once you know what's going on, it just still holds up. It's fun.
I think I watch this movie probably every 4 or 5 years. Still, I think I go back and I just really like this movie a lot. So I always try to find the time every couple of years to watch it again. Do we want to jump?
Let's hop into some scores.
Let's do it.
I'll start off. I haven't started off in a while. I'm going to give this movie a 4.8 out of 5. I have that little nitpick about, basically, I don't like watching them stand around for dialogue scenes while vampires are just standing there. That is like my one and only flaw of this movie. Everything else is great. I think it is a 4.8 out of 5.
I have it at a 4.6, and I would have it higher. I think like as like a movie in general, this ranks higher than a 4.6. But I think for a horror movie, for me, it's a 4.6. It didn't really turn into a horror movie until the third act, right? Which is 2/3 of the way through the movie.
Depends
And
on your definition of horror, I would say.
yeah, so a horror movie, and this is a point that Seth brought up to me recently. I thought was a really good point when we were talking about The Devil's Rejects and how he's like, that was a great movie, but it wasn't horror. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, horror movies don't profile the killers, they profile the victims. I was like, that's the distinction between House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects. And this is the same. So the first 2/3 of the movie fits less into the horror category and more into the not horror category because of the fact that it's profiling the killers, which is not not necessarily a situation where the viewer should be scared. So I think that, and then once it turns into a horror movie, it's still more action horror heavy, which is fun. But those points off, we'll keep it from I'd probably be right there with you, Rob, at 4.8. But as a horror movie, I think it's a 4.6.
I also have it at a 4.6. I thought it was great. Just a couple things like kind of what Rob brought up with the vampires kind of being lethargic towards the end. They should have been more terrifying, but all they really had to do was dumb it down a little bit, take away some of the vampires there. And I think I agree. I think I wanted more of like an eerie ending, but I don't know. I really like the ending. It was just like at that point, I had thrown away all of the expectations I had when the movie first started. So, second version of Jesse beat out first version of Jesse, and I just really enjoyed watching the movie. It was fun. Cool. I will definitely be watching again.
One thing I didn't bring up that I would like to bring up is the set design of the bar is incredible.
That place looked awesome.
It was
this whole movie looked really good.
Yeah.
Shot well,
But I like the bar. Like the set design of that bar in general is
so cool.
Well, I have no idea, but maybe this is what they all look like.
It's definitely what all vampire infested strip clubs look like.
Oh, and I love the scene of Cheech as his second character on the steps of the club, giving his little monologue.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And ending it by breaking the fourth wall and looking directly at the camera.
Yeah.
Like that scene is so good. I love that scene so much. Good. So
it almost felt like apocalyptic, like the way, the flames and everything. Yeah. Greatest hype man ever.
Danny Trejo and it's just such a good movie overall.
Such a good movie.
So good. But let us know if you think it's a good movie. Jump in the comments. Give us your score for From Dusk Till Dawn. I don't know if we'll ever do any of the sequels unless you guys really want us to. I don't know if I ever want to taint. I heard the series was good. I heard that they did the TV series they did was really good. But I don't know if I want to review any of the sequels. We'll see what you guys have to say in the comments. For myself, for Dave, for Jesse, that is it here at Hometown Ghost Stories Reviews. Peace.